dirty KS600 engine. Managed to find it, unwrap it, dig it out of storage, and I removed the clutch out of this for some time ago. It goes in here. So let's have a quick once over and see what we've got to play and what we've got to work on. Let's start around the clutch end. So clutch basket here, you can see it's full of oil because originally this would have been, or is, a dual disc wet clutch. I'll go into those in more detail, but I have covered this before. They're a bit temperamental, to be honest. Don't separate very well. You get quite a lot of clutch drag. The wet system just didn't work, and about every 1,000 miles or so you have to drain the oil out with this big screw here and just waste the oil, throw it away. And it splashes in from gearbox. It shares the gearbox oil. There's a little hole on the gearbox mount somewhere around here, and it just flicks in that. Fuel air mixture intakes up here. Don't know how this is, some sort of big dirty great washer thing. Oil radiator at the top. This is where the ignition coil sits. Earth over there. Cylinder heads, as you can see, this is typical. A couple of broken fins which we're going to have to deal with later. On there, great, there's actually 3 of them, so we're going to have to weld on some new pieces for that. So a quick look down in the cylinder. So the cylinder feels, it's a bit of a shame really that they've mashed this up, because if you look here, somebody's left that sat in water. That's what's done that. And I can feel there's a bit of a lip on there, so it's not a lot, but there's a bit of a lip on there. So that surface is going to have to be rebored or heavily honed. We'll have a look as we get that off. So that's that side. Let's have a quick whip around the other end. Right, so here we are around this side. You see over there, OZ74. We'll try and pronounce that in German, but suffice to say that means the octane rating, so like Benzoil or something. 74 octane. More broken fins on the cylinder head around this side. Geez, this is going to be a right old job, isn't it? Fixing them up. And again, not as bad as the other side. A little bit of evidence there. The cylinders are actually in pretty good shape, aren't they? Or this one is. It's a pity about the leaving out in the rain. So we'll have to have a look and see what we've got inside. So basically we're going to strip the whole thing down now and do a rebuild. By the way, engine number there. Often you see the engine number on these printed on here, stamped in there as well to match, out of interest, but not on this one. Right, so I'm going to start by bashing this flywheel off. It's very similar to the KS750, this one, the 600 and the 500 and the 800 and all of the Zundapps. So we've got the tang washer on there that we need to get off first of all, and then the dirty great big flywheel nut which is attached to the back end of the crankshaft. There's a bit of a knack to getting these off, so let's start with the tang washer first of all. I like to give it a bit of heat first. Just warms the metal. Things tend to bend rather than break. The best way to get that off is to come in at an angle from the corner, from the edge here. I'll just zoom in a bit. Like so. That's that. And get something flat like a punch or whatever just to flatten it down. Just grab one there. A bit more of a bash for this first. Exposes the nut. Now the nut's a bit of a bugger to get off, as you can imagine, especially this one. I suspect this has been on there forever. So I'm going to go and collect a dirty great big socket now. And now Now last time I did one of this, I mucked around with this thing forever trying to get that off, and the flywheel keeps turning. Luckily in this particular case, the it doesn't turn very well as it is, so I might try it with a breaker bar. Might not have to even brace the flywheel, don't know, because I suspect the rings are stuck to the cylinder walls or something. But anyway, let's go. I'll go and try the air. Try and ratchet first of all, see if it comes off with that. Right, it's probably wishful thinking this, but you can see if this gets it off. I'm going to zoom back out a bit. I'll tell you what, that's a brilliant tool, this thing. It's an impact driver, of course. It's the brushless version from Ryobi. And I can't tell you how good that tool is. If you're ever used to using a screwdriver, electric screwdriver, stuff like that for outdoor work or anything like this thing is flipping brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The last one of these I couldn't get off even using an air hammer. Still wouldn't the damn thing come off, so hopefully this will work, we never know. Look at that. See? Absolutely the nuts that gadget. Right, so we got that off. Must say, even I'm surprised that took it off that easy. It really is. Alright, we've got to get this big old beast out of here. There we go. Right, so now we've got this off, look for the keyway. See it there? A little dabber in there. Now someone told me once, if you rotate that so that the keyway's at the top, and then you bash the flywheel at 90 degrees to it when it's at the top, or sorry, top dead center, then the flywheels just pop off. Fortunately I can't turn this one, as I just said, so I could try and unstick it, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to give it a little bash now and see if it will come off or not. Oh, no such luck. So now I'm going to have to go and locate the flywheel puller. I made one of these before for this, so I'm going to go and find that and I'll be back to do that. Right, I found it. A day later, I should point out. Here it is. Ta-da! Doesn't look much. Let me zoom out a bit. There we go. Right, it doesn't look a lot, and it's made out of, like I said, one of these wheel hub nuts. See, these keep the bearings in the actual hubs on each wheel, and ta-da! They just happen to fit in there. Now, let's put the light on a bit more. Hang on. There we go. Right, so you can see I've just welded on, got an old one, and welded on an M12, or caked it on, I should say. Either way, it does the job. Put a nut on the back there, just so it presses against this. The idea is you screw that in on there, like that, turn this, pushes that way, pulls the flywheel off. However, some clown has damaged the thread on the outside of this. So, and this won't thread, annoyingly. So now I'm going to have to fix that as well. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the Dremel, and I'm going to just run around the outside of the thread just to an angle, about this kind of angle, just to take off any burr from the outside, and put a slight chamfer onto the actual thread itself to help see if that helps it go on a bit better. Just a little bit, and then the next thing is to use one of these. Find the lens. There we go. It's a diamond. It's like a half or 3/4 of a mil diamond cutting wheel, and just slide it. I can see a couple of bits of thread in there, but just not great. Just drop it in between the threads. See if that helps. The problem is with these, of course, is that because of the diameter, if it's the thread's duff in any way at all, it just takes so much torque to try and get this on. It's ridiculous. Let's see if it's any better. Yeah, got it. Right, so what I did is I tightened up in there and just literally clamped this onto here for a minute just to stop it turning just for a second. Then put this on again, on there. And then once you've got that, once you've done the nuts up tight, what I do is give it a quick whip over with the blowtorch, like this, quick whip round, and then a little tap either side, and ta-da, off she comes, just like that. And then we can have a good look inside to see what's gone on in there. Right, so in here we have got a little pointer, big C-clip there, which holds in this thing, and then we've got the bearing cover here, which has got the washers, the tangs around them bent round, so we need to undo those next and then pull that off. But the first, we're going to leave that for the moment, and now we've got the heavy old flywheel off, and going to have a look at the cylinders, see whether they're still stuck or not. So we'll be heating them up slowly and see if we can free them up a bit or something. Now what often happens here is when you're trying to get the cylinder head off, the lower end of the barrel is a bit tight for some reason, and so the cylinder head won't come off. You kind of, once you've released the old gluey gasket, which I've done, be careful not to damage the aluminium surface, of course, especially if you're using a chisel like I was. I'm now going to try and heat it up for a bit and see whether that releases it. You can tell because it's stuck fast, even though it's about 10mm off of the actual case itself. So I'm just going to heat that up for a bit. Right, so you can see what happens when you leave this outside in the rain, eh? I can see why I couldn't get it off. It's just kind of rusty, sticky mess. Bizarrely, it doesn't look, it looks like someone may have even tried to rebuild this at one point, or did rebuild it and then never finished it perhaps, or didn't run it for long. Because I noticed when I bought it, it came with a whole bag of parts, including bearings and things, so I'm assuming at some point somebody stripped it, swapped the bearings and then abandoned the project. But there we go. Right, so that's one side off. So let's just pause here for a minute and have a quick look at what we've got. You can see that there's still actually water in there, bizarrely. Yeah, this has been in, just so you know, this has been in dry storage, I reckon, for 2 years, something like that. Bizarre. Right, so these, I mean, you can see here there's a lot of float in there. I suppose the lesson here is that when you buy a bike, I was told by the person that sold this that that his relatives or uncle or somebody had rebuilt this machine, and I always buy, every time I buy something, I think to myself, I'm going to have to rebuild it, because I think if you're going to invest this kind of money into these sort of machines, if you rebuild it yourself, and you've got peace of mind that you know everything's been done, you know, you haven't missed any tang washers, or you know what sort of floats in the bearing and stuff like that. And a classic example here, like you go to take the piston off, and I was looking at these gudgeon pins here, or wrist pins, and you think, what is that? There's not even any C-clips or anything like that, and you can just literally push it out both ends with your finger. See all the rust up in there. And you can just see the roller bearings there in their cages. But if you notice, between the top ones, there's a pretty chunky gap. And there's a lot of play on that case. Can you see the top end of the... Let's see if I can get in there a bit better. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can just make out the top of the... You can see the bronze cage. It's just starting, is moving with the roller bearing. There we go, see at the top? In fact, now I've looked more closely and zoom in, you can actually see that the cage is broken between the rollers there. See that? You've got a roller, bronze cage, and then there should be the top three. There's nothing in there at all. If you'd started this engine up, or you just bought this and you got it going, you'd probably last about 20 seconds before the whole thing destroyed itself. So there's a good lesson there. I've just now flipped over to the other side. Look, there's no bronze cage in there at all. Just someone's just shoved in a whole mass of rollers. Seriously. What's the matter with everybody?